We're live.
Great. All right, thanks everybody for joining another web party. OpenJS Foundation cross-project council meeting. Today is the 21st of July. The issue number is 594. And again, if you're present, please throw your name into the docs, the meeting notes. Do we have any announcements before we get into the agenda?
Couple quick things. Reminder that today, immediately following our CPC meeting, is the monthly marketing committee call. So all of our project maintainers and community folks are very welcome to come and participate. We're keen to talk about stories and ideas and programs and stuff for the late summer and fall. So please feel free to attend and weigh in. I think the other kind of final thing that we're doing to wrap OpenJS world is kind of preparing some documentation with sort of the takeaways, the feedback, the final numbers and that kind of thing from how everything came out after OpenJS World and the summit. So I think we'll probably be talking a little bit about that, but also that's information that we're happy to share or discuss at some other time. But we kind of got that also wrapped up from last week's summit meeting. And I think the other kind of thing that's going to be coming up really soon is board nominations, but I'll let Brian or a member of our board, our director, CPC board director, talk about that. So that's what I got.
Great. Anybody else?
The only thing that I have, Joe, is just in general, this question about some of the emails some of the projects got from DigitalOcean about billing beginning on August 1st for the formerly free plans. Just wanted to maybe have a conversation about it. It's been opened as an issue, but at the same time.
Okay, somebody let Tierney in.
Oh, sure, sorry. So what was the ask there, Brian? I'm sorry.
The ask is just for a little bit of time to discuss, what we're expecting on August 1st for projects which are using free DigitalOcean droplets and what to do about it.
Okay. And when do you want to talk about that in this meeting if we have time? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. All right. Let's try to have a little time for that at the end as well. Great. Anything else? Jump into things. I see Chris is joining. Great. All right. So jumping into the agenda here, the first item is develop annual review process for projects. This is issue 592. Emily created this a couple days ago. You want to give us some context here, Emily?
Sure. It was something I noticed while going through the project participation, going through the documentation on this one. And effectively, we've got a bit there saying that we're going to do annual reviews of some description. And this is particularly relevant for growth projects because we've got language saying that they're not supposed to be in growth for much more than 2 years. And the 6 out of 7 of the growth projects we have been growth projects since the very beginning. And there are parts of being a growth project that I'm not sure that I've seen ever for these projects. And we should probably be doing some sort of review or then deciding that we're not doing that review for whatever reason.
Yeah, good catch.
That then also requires us to have some sort of process for doing said review.
Interesting.
So can I
Yeah.
ask for clarification from Emily? Are you talking specifically about a review just for growth or of all projects? Because we had kind of imagined one for all projects, but I think you're making a good point about the growth category. So just clarifying. Thank you.
I think we need to do it for everyone, but in particularly, we need to do it for growth projects. Because they have this, they're supposed to be growing, and the at large or the impact, the expectation there is that they're staying roughly at the same level as where they are, or becoming emeritus or whatever. But still, for growth, there's an explicit mention of movement, of change.
Mhm.
Are there numbers around, forgive the question, but are there numbers around those goals, or is it just a general, we're looking for growth?
I think it's really general. Like, so my recollection of the idea / goal for the growth category was to provide a space for a project to come in and say there's some specific objective, and that might be to actually grow the number of people who are on our maintainer team, which is certainly different than growing the number of implementations of the thing. So I think we were not so specific about what factor we expected that growth to take, knowing that growth meant different things for different people.
I always thought it meant growth to become impact at some point.
And
on its way.
I know that was something we talked a lot about, and actually something that I very much argued against, because I think that impact is not always the objective or the final resting state of all of our projects, that we would have projects that had some targeted growth goal, but in fact, being a big impact anchor project was not necessarily the right thing for them. So I always thought that growth was something that was more of a state, and that when they were in this stage, they were working to improve that state, but that the outcome could be that they go back to at large, or they are an impact project because that really did fit / was their goal. But that's always been sort of my perspective on it. And I know that others have also disagreed, so that's fine.
I think the very minimum that we should be expecting from growth projects is for each of them to have an active growth plan. And then for the review then in some way to be a checkpoint on whether the objectives or goals of that plan are being reached in some way.
Yeah, and I think that's the sort of thing that could be ongoing. It doesn't need to be you have 2 years to get out of growth. You could be continuing to grow, but looking at the documentation here in the project progression file, it does seem to imply that that a plan is expected. I don't know. I mean, I think in general the sentiment is good that we should have an annual review process, and we may want to actually review some of the wording in this document to align to what we think our foundation and its projects need.
And I take it as not just a review in terms of are they meeting the growth and do they have a plan, but as a group, are we supporting those projects in their efforts, right? So maybe the yearly review is for that, but should there be a quarterly review on the CPC to say, are we supporting the growth projects, and is the foundation supporting those growth projects, or because I think the intent was they need a bit more help, a bit more focus, and it seems like we've gotten through the base, the setting up of our processes and stuff, but so maybe that's a good time to look at okay, what do we need to do to give those projects that focus and help that they need. I
agree. It should be a two-part focus on the annual review. What are next steps for this sort of a thing, should somebody draft some sort of PR to get it started, and we can kind of iterate on what it would look like through that PR? Or?
I would suggest that if we can agree at this time that at a minimum, our expectation is for each of these projects to have a growth plan, for the next step to at least include getting in touch with each of these growth projects and basically reminding them that, hi, you're supposed to have this thing, and we're now planning on figuring out how do we do these reviews. Please make sure by some date we know where to find this document.
Jory, you're on mute, Jory.
I think that's a great idea, Emily. And I was just going to say, I think like another factor of what you're saying is we should get the representatives from the growth projects to come together and kind of propose like what they want, what that process should be like. Cause I think that would really help. That would feel better than just saying, here's what we're saying that you should do, but how about you knew that you had to do this eventually. The time is now. Let's see if we can get some input from the current growth projects in shaping that and making that something that makes sense for them.
Yeah, and I don't want to. Sorry to interrupt, Emily. I don't want to burden projects, unduly. So we may even want to have some, like, I don't know what the right word is here, but some suggestions, yeah, templates that would be helpful, because it may be, simple couple of bullet points for some of these projects that they're working on, and I don't want to pile things onto them.
Yeah.
The other hand is that the review should also be two-way, because we should also be being reviewed by each project about whether we are providing them with the support or whatever expectations they have of the CPC.
Right, that plan should definitely have a section that says like what help support do you think you need to meet these goals in the next, and that's something we can look at and say, did that, or do we have the processes and ways to get that help to them?
Mm-hmm.
You could add staff to that as well.
And staff, sure, yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we should even just start with like a HackMD file or something to start to capture some of these things, and then from there we could drop in a PR and iterate from there.
And possibly preemptively reserve one of the CPC meeting slots in some number of weeks for this.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I am going to move on, but if someone wants to just even create a HackMD file with a title and make it public and drop it into the issue, and maybe just mention too that it should be a two-way process, and that we should perhaps set aside some time in a future meeting to hash this out.
Hey, Joe, sorry to interrupt. I just had a quick question, or maybe we can clarify later,
Yep.
I wanted to understand when we mentioned the growth project, or, the growth as a whole, what exactly, like what factors or variables are we looking to actually gauge that growth is happening within the project, or we're being able to help the project grow as a whole? Like what are there factors or any, variables that we're looking into?
I mean, I think that's largely probably defined by the projects themselves in collaboration with the CPC. So it may be per project basis. But I think, adoption, community, there are a variety of things that I could see being on a growth plan.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else have a comment on that before I move on? Cool. Well, yeah, let's work on that. I think that's great. Thank you for raising it, Emily.
So yeah, I think the only thing I'll add is it depends on what the goal is. I'm just looking at the definition, which I can paste here, and not to say, that we shouldn't change it to something, but this is what the current documentation says, which is the growth stages for projects that are interested in reaching the impact stage. So that would
Yeah.
influence some of the goals, right? Like I think there'll be specific goals to the project, but it's like if that's what you're trying to get, it might look like something. If you're just saying I want to grow, and then do something else, it might look differently. So
Yeah,
it
and I
makes
think
sense to discuss that as part of this as well. Like what is the end goals that are okay?
Yeah, and I think that we should revisit some of this framing and phrasing as a part of this review process, because yeah. All right, cool. Next up is issue 590. This is an FYI for some changes to foundation bylaws. Michael, do you want to give a quick update on this?
Yeah, I mean, last week I had mentioned some changes. It was asked that I put them into an issue. So this is that issue. It just highlights the main changes. And, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great.
Best of my ability anyway.
Thank you. I am, sorry, I'm already moved on. The next item, does anybody have anything more on that, or shall I move on?
Yeah, I'm just going to remove the tag and close the issue at this point.
Perfect. The next agenda item is pull request 587. This is the board seat definitions and process that I've been working on. I'm just re-requesting review from everyone now because I pushed some changes up. And let's see. I tried to clarify some things. I got less specific about seat names and referred to the bylaws. I kind of cleaned up the language around active OpenJS collaborator. And so I think this is looking pretty good, but I'd love to have everybody's eyeballs on it, and we can try to move it forward. There's a board meeting later this week, is that right?
Yes, there is.
So yeah, if we can get folks to put a thumb on this, assuming it looks good to everybody, then we can have the board take a look at it. One thing that I want to call out in here is that our discussions on this led us to say that voting members will vote on these director roles, and part of that was thinking about representation. All of the projects are represented in the voting members, whereas the regular members could be, lean towards certain projects more representatively. I don't know what I'm saying there, but so the decision last we spoke was to just make the voting members vote right now, and we can kind of continue to evaluate this process going forward. So I wanted to make sure to call that out because it is updated in the document here. I also got a chance to use the word tertiary, which I try to use whenever I can. And I think that's it in terms of the things that I wanted to make sure people saw. All right, cool. So yeah, please take a look. Thank you. Any comments or questions there? Great. If not, the next one is updating the CLA to Apache style ICLA and CCLA. Anything here to talk about? Looks like Toby and Emily were last to chat here. It looks like Emily's good. Yeah, Brian, are we feeling good on this one? If you're still here, you're not eating. All right.
Yep. Yeah. Good.
Great. Cool. What's any next steps or anything, or should we remove the tag, or what should we do here?
I think Jory had sent out an email to the maintainers just raising the issue, right? You're on mute.
Yeah, so are we on 583 now? Sorry, I thought we were still on the other one.
Yeah, 583.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brian and Toby have largely done the lift on this, and we sent out a direct request to maintainers, particularly those who aren't always plugged into the happenings of the CPC. Got a lot of feedback based on that, and largely the feedback seems to be just concern over implementation details, making sure that transitions aren't too rough for communities and that kind of thing. But it looks like this really is a consensus. Yes, let's move this way. So
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, so from your perspective, we're ready to move to the next
yeah,
step.
yeah.
Great. Awesome. Thank you to everyone pushing that forward. We're gonna move on. The next one is the membership program. This is pull request 574. Sarah, do you want to give us an update on this?
Yep, sorry about that. I was getting all my things unmuted and off. So move the project over to phase 1. So I think there's a few things here outstanding. I think the big question continues to be the newsletter. I don't know how we traditionally determine these things. I think there's plenty of argument for, plenty of argument against. I think, so that's one open item. I think the second open item is a lot of things. I think there's a lot of things that are yet to be determined, such as where the page will be hosted, how outreach will happen, those types of questions. So my goal for this week is to kind of get a list of those questions together on the doc, so those can start to be hammered out. So that's for me, but I think an action item for the group is determining the newsletter question. I think the arguments for the newsletter is not creating any new work, having something that is of value to offer supporters, and the fact that right now the newsletter has a little over 100 subscribers. I think the fact against is it being our spirit around being open and wanting to make sure the things that we're doing are available to everyone. I think that's the big one. I think that's a big one against. I'd love to hear from anyone else, but I think keeping the newsletter open is a great idea. And what I would ask is just if instead of just killing that idea and not replacing it with something new, I think it would be great to have an idea of what we can offer supporters that will be valuable to them.
Could we call it a perk after being a supporter, but still just have it open as well?
Actually, that's a really great idea. I don't know why not.
I just had raised my hand to just advocate, you know, like it's also not clear to me exactly how we reached this decision, but I certainly strongly support the idea of including this newsletter as part of a introductory benefit to our individual supporters. And if it doesn't really matter much to them, we can stop doing it at some point and change it out with something else. There's no reason why we have to, you know, marry this idea forever and ever and ever. So, you know, for those that care, you know, I would love to see it convert to that and M+1, but you know, it's not my call.
Sounds good to me.
I like the idea of keeping the like sign up there, but offering it as a perk as well. It seems like the best of both worlds. Is there any reason not to do that, Jory? What do you think?
Any reason not to keep it open and include it as a benefit?
Yeah.
I don't know why not. Like I never knew why not in the first place. So I still don't know. Because frankly, you know, right now it's open, right? Yeah. It's a bit of a chore to find it, you know, because the groups IO system is a little weird. You may not see that you can sign up for that. So it's certainly still accessible. It's not super discoverable. The individual membership or supporter, program makes it more discoverable and easier for us to sign those folks up for it. But it's still, anybody can read it. It's on groups.io. You just go look at the archives.
Yeah, that's great. I think I think that kind of solves it all. But okay, great idea. I think, yes.
Excellent. All right, cool. So thanks for working on that, Sarah. And if you I don't know if we could create like a Slack channel or even just do it in CPC, but if you ever have any questions, I'm happy to help here. Great. So moving on, the next item is issue 567. This is incubation process clarifications. I opened this a while ago. This needs a PR to move forward.
It has a PR.
Great. Sorry. Damn it. Sorry, give me 1 second. Have I mentioned that I hate Google Voice? There we go. I don't know if you could hear that, but a phone was ringing in my ears and I couldn't do anything else. Great, so you have a PR open, I see it. This is 591 for folks on the call here. Okay, so you want to give us some context here, Emily? I'm sorry to interrupt your beer.
It's effectively doing what the suggestion that I made in the issue does. Matteo at least looked at it. I updated it a little bit based on that. I would welcome more eyes on that and more approvals and or comments, and then we can take it forward from there.
Just a quick question. It deletes the projects.md file. Is that intended?
That's
or
intentional
an artifact?
because no, it's because we've already got the list of projects in the readme.md file, and at least the last 1 or 2 updates of that list of projects have not touched the projects.md file. We're clearly not dealing well with duplicating the same data, and we get no utility out of having a separate projects.md file.
Okay, thanks.
So
I just was trying to understand. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. All right. Yeah, looks good to me. If folks could take a look at that PR and get their thumb on it as well, that would be awesome. Moving on, security reporting proposal to stage 2. Michael, you got a comment already in the notes?
Yes. I need to check if there's any new comments. We agreed, I think, last week that if there weren't any objections or concerns by the end of the week, we'd land it. So I haven't checked yet, but that's all that needs to happen. And I think then we can land it.
Great. I don't see any new comments since your last comment. So we're rock and rolling. Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Let's see. So this is another Michael Dawson pull request 547, governance for collaboration network.
Yeah. So the proposal landed at stage 2. I just need to open one at stage 3 and then put it forward to the board along with the governance for approval, which is needed before we land it at stage 3.
Great. And is that something you'll take to them in the upcoming meeting?
I will try and do that. I'm not going to be able to make the upcoming meeting, but Chris is going to be able to be there. So I'll coordinate with him on that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the next one is issue 526. This is select voting tool for votes. Emily added the label here. I think that it makes sense to, as Tierney said, just pick one and we'll go from there. What did we use OpaVote last time? I can't remember.
OpaVote worked well.
So let's just say OpaVote for now, unless anybody has an objection. Okay, no objections to, sorry, I'm just making a note here.
Who knows how to run those votes or what account we use or anything like that? Is it?
So I ran it last time, and it was for, I think the last time we used it was for the regular members to vote for their voting member, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was more of like the first time we'd used it. And it worked well because we had like 30 something ish regular members who were taking, who were be eligible to participate. Brian and Robin and I were discussing on our staff call on Monday that for smaller groups, it's probably better slash, you know, easier for us to go ahead and do a mail vote, but I think a vote by email, I should say. But for CPC, we'd like to continue to use OpenVote because it is easy to administer. And
yeah, my
audit.
question was more around like, how do we, if somebody wants to do a vote, do they ask Jory? Do we, you know, is it, how does somebody actually get a vote done if they need it? And do we need to document that anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I think the CPC, I guess the CPC could, I mean, I would assume that staff would take care of executing votes. And so just for memory, everyone, that's Robin, Brian, myself, and Rachel. So we could do that. You could have a elections subcommittee of the CPC.
No, I don't want to. I'm not saying make it complicated. I'm just want to make it clear. That's all. Like,
yeah.
Do we need a line somewhere that says our voting tool is X, and if you want to have a vote, send an email to Jory or whatever. Like,
if that would make things clear for everybody, then totes do that. Or OpenJS. What is the email? Admin I can't remember.
Operations@openjs.org.
right, that's probably an even better idea, right? So that's hey,
Jory, let's think offline on the account here. I can set it up so that it gets billed. I think it.
Yes, so I'm not just paying 10. It's like $10 an election, and so it's like Jory pays $10 and then sends a bill for $10 to Robin, who then Venmos her $10. It's just kidding.
And it cost us $50 to administer and approve the whole thing.
I'll link up with you and we'll make that a little easier.
Good idea.
Great. So I am just adding another comment here. Great. Closing comment. So that's all taken care of. I included the operations@openjsf.org email for election support, and I think that's done and done, unless anyone has anything else. Cool. So next on the list is second director seat, which I think, you know, is blocked by the process and definitions PR that is near its final stages, unless someone disagrees. And then the next one is add foundation-wide copyright guidance. I'm not sure if Toby's on the call, but I think this is one that has been lingering for him, which, you know, no pressure. Yeah. And if I don't hear Toby chime in, I will assume that he's not on the call, and we will continue holding on that one. And then the last one, no, second to last one is responsible security disclosures, which relates to 566, as Michael's already commented in the notes here, that is, you know, if there are no new comments, we agreed to land. So that's moving forward. And then the last one, it appears that we have a draft proposal for Commons JS program. Oh, we do not. This is from February of 2019. Thanks,
this Emily. Is me digging it up because another thing I noticed, our governance mentions Commons JS, and then I was digging up what the heck is this thing, and then when looking at it, and we've never done anything about it. Could we just, you know, drop it for now and maybe return to it later if we actually feel like it?
I think it was
clearly not doing something about it.
Yeah, it was dropped until you brought it up again. Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome. That issue is still open. I did not open it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and it may be, you know, something to be considered amongst the collaboration space work. I mean, I found this concept interesting when we were merging the foundations. So I hesitate to just, like, you know, cut it out, but we should revisit it and see if it makes sense in the current, you know, where we are in the foundation right now, and how it fits in.
I think one of the things that I was hoping that we would kind of suss out as part of our discussion and pushing the collaboration network idea forward is more of an understanding of what you know, is the collaboration network sort of like the next evolution of that thinking of the value of a Commons.js program, and so Commons.js program is deprecated in favor of collaboration network, or is that are they two separate like things? And so that's one of the things that I hope to explore more.
Yeah, or is it a part of it?
I think they're different things, and at least in my mind, in that my understanding of the Commons.js was, you know, there'll be projects that are too small, not a fit, whatever, you know, for whatever reason doesn't make sense for them to join the foundation. But can the foundation still provide some level of support to those projects? So, you know, there might potentially be some large number of projects that we provide some smaller amount of support to. And I'm not sure.
What would that support look like, really?
Well, I was just about to say is I'm not sure we ever talked about what it might look like. Right. And so I don't know.
Well, we had, I mean, the ticket had outlined like travel grants and other things that were a bit more formal. And I just don't think that's happened, or is it going to happen anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
something like IP and copyright guidance or something could be, you know, I could see there being a number of things that a project may, you know, have questions for a foundation or something.
I mean, we can already kind of do this informally. Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Yeah.
I was to say our global conference provides a lot of speaking slots to projects who are not members. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's like, this is the description that Matteo had, right? The whole idea behind CommonJS is to provide resources to the ecosystem for whatever reason could or want to apply to be a full project. This typically applies to small projects. Not really worthwhile to move to the foundations. They're maintained by one or two individuals. Providing access and creating a communication channel between maintainers of these tiny modules and the rest of the ecosystem is important.
I mean, I think it could be a part of the collaboration network, you know, one component of it is that we're here to support, you know, non-member projects in our community.
I mean, the project, so for example, projects in a particular area could use it to come together and talk about, you know, say if you had a whole bunch of small testing related modules, they could get some resources to do that. I'm not sure I could argue that it's a replacement, but I think I take Emily's point that we haven't done anything. What we need is like either a champion or as a group to say it's something we're going to take up. Otherwise, just leaving the issue open probably it's been open too long for that.
The next step that I think would make sense here is that someone, well, probably me, files an issue that's nominally a governance change that would also close this issue, and then we see whether that PR gets traction or not.
Right, so you're thinking like a PR that says we're going to provide these kind of resources in this way, or
PR that says that it doesn't make sense for our governance to mention this thing. We never even got together.
Okay, right.
And that we are intending. This is still important for us to be able to do that. We're seeking to solve some of these issues via the collaboration network, and that later we might feel like we want to return to this, in which case we're gonna, you know, process it again.
I think that's a good path forward, Emily.
Right, because you're right. It is. I see what you're saying now. Like you're basically proposing a PR that would remove it from the charter.
Yeah. The one short mention of it, yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, got it. That will trigger the discussion. I think you're right, one way or the other.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's do that. I mean, I think it's interesting concept, and we should keep it in mind as we move forward on other things.
And if there are gaps that we could fill on the foundation side and the website to provide more information to smaller projects, maybe
Yeah.
we can do that in a scalable way. So
Yeah. All right, great. I think, let me find the notes. Where are they? That was the last item, and I was hoping to stop at about 15 minutes till, so we're doing all right here. So should we call it a wrap on the public meeting and jump into private session for a moment? Or actually, Brian, you wanted to ask about
DigitalOcean.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So this has come up with a few projects in a few different ways. But for those who aren't aware, DigitalOcean had sent out an email about a month ago. They are ending their free droplet tier, which I am not sure how much this is going to affect some of the former JSF projects. I do know that there were a substantial number of droplets which were spun up by various projects over time, really over the past years. So if you do have a question about how this would work, or if August 1st rolls around and you're a maintainer of one of the former JSF projects and get a bill, please reach out to me. We will get this figured out for you one way or another. Again, operations.
Great. Thank you,
I
Brian.
should add that I don't think we anticipate anybody getting a bill, but if you do,
Yep.
big if with lots of like underscores, but we don't anticipate it.
Yeah, good clarification.
Thanks, Drew. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Let me see. Can I maybe Michael, can you stop the live stream? We'll jump into private session.